listening to Living with ADHD and CPTSD, available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. So today's episode, I'm going to talk about CPTSD, and I need to discuss with everyone how being in a different situation in your life for the first time in a long time has really affected and changed my perspective on everything. Because for the longest time, very close to 4 years now, the only real thing I've kind of understood and known is having a relationship with someone. And so basically all the stresses and how when you're in a relationship, things are a certain way day to day, depending on how serious it is and the situation that you're living in and the person that you're with. A lot of people, they wake up every morning next to that same person and they eat breakfast and lunch and dinner with that person. They work and they come home and they interact with that person every day, just like they always do. And so they they do get used to the way life is. So it's just like you get married, let's say, and you go 10 years, okay? And so you've had 10 years of basically every day, except maybe when one of you goes on a vacation or something, or a road trip, or, you have maybe spend a day or two away from them. But pretty much every entire day of your life together, you have the same thing, same routines. You wake up roughly the same time each morning. You have your coffee. One of you maybe gets up a little bit later. You both are getting ready for work, or maybe one of them doesn't go to work. It all depends on your unique situation. Maybe you've got kids, and so maybe one of you stays home and does the, parenting during the day. And then when you're both home, you both parent and you make dinner, or maybe one of you is at home and preps the dinner and does the cooking and you eat and whatever, or maybe you mix it up, right? Everybody has their own unique situation, and we all have what we're used to and how it is. Like I was used to, for a year and a half, waking up during the week, having to do my best to quietly go into the kitchen and make my breakfast and make a coffee and do the prep work, feed the dog, and then come into for the first while, it was in the living room and do work. And then she would wake up, an hour and a half or an hour later, depending on what her day is like for that day. And then eventually it was going into my office, which was next to her room. So no matter what, there wasn't really an opportunity to be at normal volume. And so how I would do it is I would close the door. I would put YouTube on, or maybe there was something else I wanted to watch, and then I would watch that for a half an hour or so, and then I would start work, and I would be working from home. I was going out and driving around and doing my work when I wasn't home, so it was kind of like a 30-70, 40-60 kind of situation. And so you get used to this, right? And then I'd come home and I'd relax for a bit. She'd work if it was during most of the week. And then I would prep dinner around 7 o'clock on most nights. And pretty much that was my routine. Now, for the entire time, for that year and a half that we were together, we weren't the type, because we're not similar when it comes to sleeping and how we are. Like, I move a lot. I'm very warm. So, excuse me, I don't need a lot of blankets, especially even in the wintertime. I know it's kind of, I'm a very hot blooded kind of person, or temperature wise. So I don't need a lot of blankets and stuff to keep me warm. And I kind of like it cool anyways. And she's the type that gets cold extremely fast or easily. So she needs like a lot of blankets. And when I would move, I would wake her up easily. So we made a mutual agreement that we would just sleep in our own bedrooms, and it just the way it was, right? I think we tried a couple nights to sleep in the same bed, but it didn't work. There were some other circumstances that played into it, but for the most part, yeah, we never did. And then there was a moment for over a year where there wasn't even the thought of it. We never considered it. We were having some tough times throughout that time frame. I don't remember exactly when it started, but we were having some problems for a while. We even contemplated having her get a new roommate, and either I moved out or, we had a break for a month. We actually did do that. But we never fully recovered to the numbers, or not the numbers, to the kind of way our relationship was when we had first moved in. And it just kind of got to a state where there was a lot of anger and mistrust, and I was struggling with my CPTSD a great deal, having a lot of issues. We were having a lot of arguments and fights and misunderstandings, and it wasn't a great time, but yet we were surviving, and we were able to make it work for the most part. And then during the summer, like beginning of the summer, May of last year, and forward from then on, it really didn't, we didn't really recover too well. And we were having a lot of struggles. We made some improvements, but for the most part, things just didn't really work. Like we really tried. We had some good moments, but if you were to ratio it, there was way more not so great moments than there were good moments. And I didn't know. I was in a situation where almost daily I was stressed out and had a lot of anxiety, and it took a lot of, well, actually, I know that doesn't sound right. It didn't take very much at all for me to start getting overwhelmed and getting triggered and wanting to spend a lot of time on my own. We literally went like 6-7 months without even having dinner in the same room. I'd go to my room and eat and watch whatever I wanted to watch, and she'd go to her room and eat and then watch whatever she wanted to watch. And yeah, it just, like I said, it was just downhill, and there weren't very many, if any, uphill moments. And when they did appear, it was extremely short. And if you didn't pay attention, you'd miss it awful fast. So, but yeah, like my I've been feeling, and see, it's been about 2 weeks now, roughly. And the levels of stress and anxiety inside has really dropped. I'm not feeling the levels that I felt before the relationship ended. I know that's pretty normal for most people, but for someone like myself who's had a lot of trauma and, parts getting triggered all the time, it was to the mental health aspect, it was a sense of relief because I didn't have to constantly worry about every day or every hour or, whenever I get home or whenever I'd go out or if I was doing something in the kitchen or outside or we were interacting. I was always concerned and getting stressed and feeling anxious because I was worried that she'd get in an uproar and get upset at me, or I'd make a mistake and screw up once again, right? Like it just felt like it was just a matter of time and when, like not if, but when it would happen. And so since the situation where she was now living in the basement and I'm upstairs and we've got separate floors and we really don't talk to each other or see each other much at all, all the negativity, all the negative feelings, the stress, the anxiety has pretty much dropped to zero. I did have on this past Monday at night, I had a couple hours where I was feeling very lonely and overwhelmed. That had a mixture of one, going back to work after having 3 weeks off, which was great, but it went way too fast, as I'm sure we all would agree. And then, of course, knowing that because I felt like this, I didn't have the ability to go and talk to her like I could in the past about this. So it was not a great feeling. And thankfully, it was just that one night where I had this feeling. But for the most part, I haven't really been feeling triggered or overwhelmed. I've actually felt really good. I've felt more like myself for the first time, probably since just after the move back in July of 2021. And it is a good feeling. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I don't miss the relationship. Like I do miss the ability to talk and to sit with her and have good conversations, right? Like have a fun conversation and laugh and sit there for a while and just have fun. But I definitely don't miss all the fighting and the arguing and the anxiety and stress that I felt when things weren't right. And the unfortunate part of all this is that you can't have one of it without the other half, right? You can't be choosy. It's not like a bit of A and B. It's either like you have to have both, and you can't just select all the happiness without the bad parts. It doesn't work that way, and it's never going to be that way for anybody. So it's given me an opportunity for a lot for myself. I'm focusing, of course, on my well-being and my mental health, and it has allowed me to do more reflection than I have in the past. And it's also given me the opportunity to think about all sorts of things, right? Like, do I feel like there's any possibility that this relationship could, recover in, 3-4 months, possibly longer? Is it dead in the water? I've also thought about stuff like what would be best for me financially. You know, overall, like, would it be healthier for me to find a place downtown that's affordable? Obviously, I'd have to have the right situations. I'd have to be able to take my dog because I have an animal. That's not going to be in question. And it's got to be a place that I can afford because, you know, here I'm paying an amount for rent, and I'm paying an amount for all the utilities, and there's bills, of course, and food. So, you know, you're paying for groceries and you're paying for your utilities every month. So it adds up. And if I lived out on my own in a place where all I pay is rent and internet and for food, I would save quite a bit of money on not having to pay for any of the utilities. You know, I didn't have to pay for power or heat or water. And I would save myself probably $400 a month easily. And that's great because, you know, I can put that towards savings or feel more inclined to buy food that is healthy for me. Like just last week, when I bought groceries for myself, it came out to $100. And I know that's not a lot. I get it. You guys, I'm not claiming that that's crazy expensive. I know that there are some of you out there that have families with kids, and your weekly grocery bills are probably $200, maybe $300. And a lot of you are probably spending it on stuff that's not exactly expensive either. You know, like your food that you purchase and eat and consume on a weekly basis is different than what I consume, right? Like I have in my opinion, I have a very healthy diet. I do a lot of prep work. I don't regularly eat out or, you know, buy prepared meals. I do the 3 courses. I do my protein and my starch and my vegetables, and I make that nearly every day of the week, and it's quite enjoyable. And then there's the extra stuff, right? Like, you know, you have to buy your accessories, you have bathroom stuff, you've got toiletries, you've got cleaning things. There's stuff that you need that's like accessories to the food. So yeah, like for me, $100 was, you know, a bit more than what I'm used to because I didn't spend that much. Although keep in mind, there were a few things that I had to buy that I don't think typically I would buy on a weekly basis. So it's probably not going to be at that range every week. And the amount of food that is being purchased is lower because it's just for myself. It's not for the two of us. And she, of course, would share in the payment or the buying of the food. And I have to make, you know, some choices. There's some tough choices out there. I didn't buy some things that I normally purchase because I have to kind of be wise and smart with what I'm buying and eating. And you got to be more aware, right? Like I had to be aware of prices a lot more. Like I had to make sure that I wasn't just buying anything and the most expensive chicken or you know, like when I bought cereal for the first time in 2 years, I didn't go and just grab the biggest box that costs $12 that's going to last me 3 weeks. I'm trying to budget the groceries and make sure that it's, you know, not too much. But also at the same time, I realize that because the prices of food has gone up, obviously quite a bit, that it is going to be higher than what I'm used to. So yeah, anyways, back to the main point of what I was saying. I'm trying to determine if it's best that I go and find my own place and have more privacy and more freedom, or do I stick around? Like the first month or two of this is probably going to be very lonely and quiet because it takes time for things to just kind of settle down. And for all I know, in a couple of months, she could start coming and talking a bit more. I'm not saying that it's going to be anything like in the past, but things could change. You never know. And I'm working on myself. So I don't know what to do. I'm just kind of contemplating my future. And I don't mean just immediate short term. I'm talking long-term future. Do I evaluate things from a different perspective because I'm not having a biased feeling here? Like when you first break up with someone, and I haven't exactly had a lot of experience with this, keep in mind, okay? When you first break up with someone, there's that period where it's kind of like a mourning period, or it's highly emotional. So a lot of people, they think for a while, I can't see myself being with anybody else. This is going to get better. She's going to come back. It's all the typical signs of not being able to admit to yourself that this is for the best. You got to move on. You got to find another partner, kind of thing. And then eventually you just calm down and you're able to see things from a non or an objective point of view. And then you are able to evaluate and go, maybe there were things that could have been better. Maybe I need to have this more, or maybe this needs to be more of a necessity in a relationship rather than, dealing with it or foregoing that because you love that person, or you want to make them happy, or you want to do, want to be with them. So you make sacrifices. Well, maybe next time I won't make a sacrifice. Maybe it's going to be something that I need to have in order to be happy with myself, right? And be satisfied and feel that this is worth the time and effort to put into it. So you got to think of those things. And the biggest thing that I have to do is I have to, if I do plan on, no matter which way it goes, whether it's deciding to wait and try again, or deciding to go out and find somebody new, move to a new place, try dating new people. When that happens, I've got to keep the whole CPTSD thing on the front page. It's got to be important to me. I can't ignore it. I can't just, say, yeah, okay, I've got this trauma, but I want to date somebody. I don't want to be alone anymore. That's not exactly a healthy way to look at this. That is the wrong way to do it, because if you ignore that aspect of your life, which I think to some degree I did, you're likely not going to really be in a position, whether you want to admit it or not, to be ready and be in a healthy relationship. Because who's to say, unless I've done a lot of healing and I've done a lot of work and I feel that I'm capable of handling unexpected things, or, it's not going to go the way you think all the time, unless I'm ready for this and my parts are trusting me and think that I'm going to be safe trying to get to know some new person. There's a good chance that the first sign or first struggle that you have with this new person, let's say the first date goes well and you guys agree to have a second date, and let's say maybe the second date is not so great. You're both willing to continue, but maybe the second date was kind of a downer. Maybe something didn't go the way you thought. Now, am I going to have the ability to keep my parts, in control and be able to say to them, hey, it's okay. Nothing's perfect. There's going to be ups and downs. This is normal in a new relationship. It's not always going to go perfect. So just relax, guys. I can handle this. We're okay. Nobody's in danger. Am I going to be able to be at that point? And you can do a lot of work and you can do a lot of processing and try to figure it out and, see if you're there. But to be honest, you're not really going to know until you get into a situation, until you actually do it. Because it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to actually experience it and see it happen for real in actual time. Once you get there, then everything's usually, you feel better. You feel less stress. If you're noticing that everything's going well, maybe there's a bit of a hiccup, but nobody's walking away from the table, or you're not getting like a glass of water or a drink thrown at you because you said something that was inappropriate, or, whether it was on accident or not. If the date goes well, despite a few hiccups, and you're in control and you stay the adult and you make good choices, then, there's a sign that maybe it isn't so bad. Maybe you are doing better, And the other thing is, at some point in this, if the person that you're dating maybe becomes more serious, at some point you need to let them know. Like, you can't keep this from them. That would be bad. And that's not being honest with anybody. Like, if you're going into a new relationship and you're unwilling to tell them about things that you're dealing with and say, this is the reality, I've done a lot of work, blah, blah, blah. You can't keep that from them. You have to know the right time. You have to feel safe telling them. Not everybody is going to understand that, but that's the whole point of dating, is to find that person who fits, right? You have to fit in each other's mold in order to know or to find that right person. And that's going to be a tough choice. And I know I may have to do that at some point. But yeah, it's amazing today, and for the last while, I've felt good. I've felt less stress, way less anxiety than in the past. I do have moments where I think about stuff, right? You ponder and you think about how you could make things different. Some of your thoughts are not realistic. Like, I had some unrealistic thoughts about what could I do or say to fix things. And then, I quickly say to myself, no, just, that's not, you're not being realistic. Let's just chill out. And then there was, you get a lot of good thoughts where you think about, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go out and have some fun, or I'm going to explore and do the things that I love, that I really like to do. I'm going to go visit friends, or I'm going to go do a lot of photography, or I'm going to take my dog out. We're going to get a lot of exercise. Or, like, I have to say, I almost purchased a new television yesterday. My old one, which I've had for about 10, 11 years almost now, is starting to go on me. It still works. It's just, there's a thick kind of a line on the left-hand side, maybe a couple inches in, and it shows up when I'm watching programs. It is a bit distracting, but it still works. The sound's good. The picture otherwise is still good. It is getting old though, so I'm not too sure how much longer it has left. But I stayed in control yesterday. I went to a couple stores, and I remember I saw one that was I thought was in a good price range. I'm thinking about, paying for it. Is it smart? Is it the right thing? Should I put money away? I used to be really impulsive with these things. And to some degree, I'm not saying I've never made choices that were impulsive at any point lately, but I was so much better at telling myself, no, don't do this. It's, you're going to be able to some other day down the road. You can do this then, save up some money, be smart about this. Don't go and just buy something because you need it now when you really don't. And rather than being disappointed or sad, which would occur because a child part's feeling, oh, you didn't take care of the child part, the part that wants things and can't think and wait and decide and let weigh the good and the bad of it. Like I used to have a hard time doing that, and I have to admit that it did often get me into some financial problems. Like, thankfully, I make enough money and I've done the right things that I'm not going to be, going into bankruptcy. I just have to be smart and wait and be patient. Sometimes I've made some choices that had to be made, and you just have to deal with it. But yeah, I stayed as the adult, and I walked out and said, no, I can't do this. I can't justify it. That TV hasn't died yet. I do have another one. I'll put some money away. I'm making extra cash during work, and if I make $100 a week or maybe $150, put that in the savings account, and then in a month you've got $400 or $500, and then you can feel better about going out and buying a new TV and replacing the one that's dying on you. And that's part of the CPTSD, because you can be impulsive, and it can be an ADHD, which, I've probably done, but you can definitely be impulsive and make choices that are wrong from a child's point of view. You could be blended with your child parts, and you're doing this to make yourself happy, or to please someone, even if it's yourself or your child parts. But the reality is that you're not necessarily thinking about the responsibilities that you have, and child parts can't do that. So I did the right thing. And it's a testimony to the amount of effort and work I've put in and the progress that I've made since I started. Now, hopefully one day, all this will be easier. Instead of standing there for 40 minutes, thinking back and forth, almost doing it, so close, even to the point of asking your brother to come drive in and bring it to your house for you because you can't fit it in your vehicle. It's still hard, but I was able to do the right thing, and I'm quite proud of myself. And to be honest, a lot of you guys, it's going to take some work, but you can be that way as well. You can be in control, and your child parts trust you, and they know that you're going to do the right thing. You're going to take care of them, whether it's trying not to be impulsive and buying stuff just to meet your needs in the wrong way, or making relationship decisions. And they're all big and they're all important, and they all have consequences immediately and down the road. So you just have to know and make sure you're doing the right thing in the moment, and that everybody trusts you. And when I mean trust, I mean your child parts are trusting you. And there you have it. Another episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. I hope this was a great episode and helpful for all of you out there listening. If you find that this kind of episode is really informative and helpful for you, then please give me a shout, let me know what you feel and how you're thinking about this. You can get in touch with me either via email. The email address is livingwithadhdandcptsd@gmail.com. If you want to contact me on Twitter, by all means, my Twitter handle is @ADHD&CPTSD. You can also get a hold of me at Mastodon. That is a relatively new social site, kind of like Twitter. You can also go to my website, www.livingwithadhdandcptsd.ca. If you would like to help me out, whether it's donation or even becoming a member, you can go to my Patreon page. Just look for Living with ADHD and CPTSD. You can go to Ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com, and you can donate there any amount you feel is acceptable. It doesn't really matter. And you could also become a subscriber to Apple Podcasts, and it's a small monthly fee that you can pay to get access to episodes like this early and, other episodes that aren't available to the public. All right, everyone, that is this episode. I hope you have a great day, and I shall talk to you later. Bye, everyone.